I'm honored to be with you today for a commencement from one of the finest universities in the world. Truth be told, I never graduated from college. This is the closest I've ever gotten to college graduation. Today, I want to tell you three stories from my life. That's it. No big deal, just three stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of real college after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a dropping for another 18 months or so really quick. So I did a dropped out. It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwell graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by a college graduate, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that time when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only regretted a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 7 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings was being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the bar end. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was spending all the money my parents had saved in their entire life. So I decided to opt out and trust that it all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I was taking the higher class that didn't interest me and began dropping in on one that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so slept the floor in friend's room. I returned Coke bottle for 5 cent deposit to buy food, and I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it, and much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label, and every door was beautiful hand calligraphy. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal class, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about self and sans-serif typefaces, about varying the amount space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, articulable in a way what science can't capture. and I found it fascinating. None of this had ever thought of my application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me, and we designed it all the Mac. It was the first computer with its beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in the class in college, the Mac would have never had multiple types of operating spaces fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. Would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in a calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have powerful pipeline that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connecting in your future. You have to trust the something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dot will connect down the road, it will conscious how you hard, even when it leads you off the well-known path, and that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Was and I started up in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and 10 year apple had grown past just two into a 2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We had just released our Heineken Macintosh year either, and I had just turned 30, and then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I saw was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year, some went well. But then visions of our future began to diverge and very falling out. When we did, our board directors sided with him. So sorry, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of the and it was devastating. I didn't know what to do for humans. I felt that great previous generation of entrepreneurs died, that I had dropped out the bottom as it was past me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public fellow, and I was sort of running away from the party. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The time of events of changed as I read. I've been changed, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but in times of getting fired from what was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of beginning again. Let's share about everything. It filled me up with entire one with most of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixel, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixel One created our first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, a return to Apple, and successfully developed Next is a part of Apple's renaissance. And let's say who family together. I'm pretty sure none of this have it was awful testing medicine, but I guess the patient needed. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I recalled that when something like, if you live each day as if it was your last, someday you lost it said be like. It made an impression on me. And since then, in the past 30 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today was the last day in my life, what do I want to do when I was about today? And whenever I well, for too many days in a row, I know we need to change something. Remembering that always the most important thing we have to make success in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations or pride or fear of imbalance or failure, these things are swallowing in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I could sense when the cardiac showed a sign on my pancreas. I didn't even know what a pancreas was. The doctor told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable, and that I should expect to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order. Yes, in order, which is doctor's call or prepare to die. It means to try and tell your kids everything you saw in just a few months. It means to make sure everything is buttoned up so that it will be possible for your family. It means to say your goodbyes. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy where they stuck an just down my soul, so my stomach and into my chest, put a needle into my pancreas and got a few cells from that tumor. I was decided, seated, but my wife, who was there, told me that when they viewed the cells under the microscope, the doctors started crying because it turned out to be a very rare form of pancreas cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery, and thankfully, I'm fine now. This was the closest I will ever to facing death. I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this with a bit more tradition concept. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to get there. And yet, this is a destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it, and that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It is life, so I chose to make a way for you. Right now, the new is you, but someday not too long hold now. You will graduate from the world and be cleared away. So it will be dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart in this issue. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called The Fall Earth Cattle. It was one of the Bible my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Mero Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the 60s before personal computers and desktop publishing. So it was all made with typewriter, scissors, and Polaroid cameras. It was sort of like Google in paperback from 35 years before Google came along. It was idealistic, overflowing with neat tools and great notions. Stewart and his team put out several issues of the Fall Earth catalog, and then, when it had run its course, they put out a final issue. It was the mid 1970s, and I was your age. On the back cover of their final issue was a photograph of an early morning country road, the kind you can find yourself future adventures. Beneath it was stay hungry, stay foolish. It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate who begin new, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thank you all very much.